Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Tito, je fais des vidéos sur les finances personnelles sur mon autre chaîne, mais sur cette chaîne, je parle d'autres choses comme aujourd'hui où je vais revoir le film Three Cold Dishes, or in French, Trois plats froids.
Three Cold Dishes is a Pan-African revenge thriller about three women who reunite to seek vengeance against the men who trafficked them. After being trafficked as teenagers, they spent 17 years planning a multi-country operation to dismantle and bring down the powerful men behind their trauma. The movie is directed by Oluseyi Asof Amuwa and is executive produced by Burna Boy, and it explores themes of survival, justice, and reclamation.
This film has been highly anticipated for a few reasons. First of all, it's executive produced by Burna Boy and his mother/manager, Bose Ogulu. Secondly, they've been making this film for quite a while. If I remember what the director said correctly at the premiere, they've been making this film for around 5 years now. And third, this movie, Three Cold Dishes, was the opening movie at the recently concluded edition of AFRIF. And AFRIF, as many of you know, is a big deal here in Nigeria. Anyway, all that said and done, let's dive into it, beginning with the performances.
Hey guys, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Are you a big fan of Nollywood, and do you think that you do well at a Nollywood-centered games night? If the answer to both questions is yes, then I'd like to invite you to the Nolly Trivia. It's a trivia night filled with Nollywood-centered games where prizes will be won. It's been running every month since April, and I'd like to invite you to the next edition, which is on Saturday, the 13th of December. To buy a ticket, you can search for the Nolly Trivia on the website tix.africa, or you can just click the link in the description box below. So grab a ticket, and I hope to see you on Saturday, the 13th of December at the Nolly Trivia.
This film centers around three young women. Esosa, played by Osas Ighodaro, Fatoma, played by Fat Toure, and Giselle, played by Maud Guerard. Now, these three young women, in their much younger years, they are like deceived or they're abducted and they're eventually like sold into the sex trade, right? And that happens for a few years in their life until they sort of break free and they want to get revenge when they're slightly older. And their older versions are played by these three actresses. The three of them do well. They work well together as a trio seeking revenge. The acting was all right, but this film is an action film, and I don't know, it felt like the acting where action is concerned wasn't quite up to par for me. There was a bit of a language barrier because, as you know, Osas Ighodaro is Nigerian. The other two ladies are from French-speaking Africa, so there's a bit of a language barrier in the acting, but also with the characters. But it's written into the story how there is a language barrier and how they kind of bridge that gap, because Osas's character, Esosa, learns a bit of French, and the other two ladies, their characters learn English as well. So they do work well together, like I said. Wale Ojo is also in this film. He plays Bankole. If you've seen the trailer, he's one of the aggressors or one of the abusers, right, of one of the girls. Each of the girls has their own people or person that lures them into this life of sex trafficking. And Wale Ojo does a really good job. I haven't seen Wale Ojo play a villain before, or at least in a very long time, and he's pretty much one of the villains in this film, and he does a good job playing Bankole. Femi Jacobs is in the film as Didier. He's, I think, a journalist in the film, and he's researching the story and the things that happened with these three women who eventually become quite infamous because of the things that they do in their quest for vengeance. And the acting generally, I don't know. Let me try to stay within the performances niche that I'm talking about here, because I think when it comes to action films, there's just a different cadence and a different translation that is necessary. And the characters, I mean, when you think of action films, maybe like Fast and Furious, which at this point is fantasy. Fast and Furious went from action to fantasy, but I don't even know if I should use Fast and Furious as an example, because the acting in Fast and Furious isn't that fantastic. Come to think of it, the acting in action films requires a different set of, I don't know, skills and dynamics. And I think in this film, Three Cold Dishes, it was there, but it wasn't. I think not everyone had it. Some people had it, some people didn't, but it would have worked best if everyone had that cadence or that dynamic of delivering with the dynamics of telling an action-based story. So by and large, performances were good, but I think they could have been better, and I think they could have done a bit more to really embody an action film. What I liked, the cinematography in this film was really good. Casey Obiajulu was the DOP, the director of photography on this film, I believe, and he's a very good DOP. And the visuals in this movie were very appealing. You have lots of nice establishment shots, lots of nice wide shots. You get to see lots of West Africa because this movie is filmed not just in Nigeria, but also in Benin, I think also in Côte d'Ivoire. And you get to see different parts of West Africa. And that was really nice. And the visuals, once again, were really nice. The second thing I liked about this film is the fact that it's, I think, maybe a split of maybe 60% English, 40% French, but there is a lot of French in this film. And as somebody who's been learning French for a number of years now, that was really lovely for me because I try and seize any opportunity I can to learn French or to listen to French to improve my French speaking and all that. So I liked hearing French in the film. I liked that they filmed in the desert because you don't see that very often. There are portions of this film that are done in the desert while people are like being trafficked from one point to the other. So that was interesting to see as well. What I didn't like, the story of this film could have done with a bit more development and a bit more work. It could have been richer because when you're doing a movie based on like a story of revenge and abuse and trafficking, there's a lot there. It can be deep, it can be rich, but I felt like they only kind of scratched the surface. They didn't go deeper into like the characters that were involved. Many of the other characters, even though they could have been secondary characters that were involved in trafficking these young girls who grow up to be these three young women who are seeking revenge. There could have been secondary characters that could have been developed or that could have been infused into the story. And aside from that, the overall story at certain points felt like they were going in directions that didn't serve the primary purpose of the film. Because there are things happening off to the side in this film that, you know, as you're watching, you'll be wondering how relevant these things are to the main objective of the film, which is these girls trying to get revenge on the people that abused them or that trafficked them and did them wrong, essentially. I mean, there's even, I think it was Osas's character who has a brother in the film who they're separated when they're younger. They could have done stuff with that. I don't even think we got to see the brother in the movie. So that's what I mean, right? It felt like a lot more could have been done with the story because they did have stuff to work with. They had lots of characters that they could have developed and lots of subplots that could have supported the main plot had they developed the story a little bit more. Secondly, character development. There are lots of characters in this film, so maybe they didn't have the luxury of going too deep with some of the characters. But I feel like if they had done more character development with some characters in particular, it would have served the story a bit more. We would have been more invested in some of the characters, particularly the main characters, the girls. Who should see it? See Three Cold Dishes if you are a big fan of Osas Ighodaro. I don't think she's done that many action films. I think the last one I've seen was Rattlesnake, which was like 5 years ago. So if you're a fan of hers, you love her movies and you love her acting, I think you should see this film, Three Cold Dishes. Also, because of the French language, right? If you are actively trying to learn French and you try and seize any opportunity to hear French being spoken, especially on TV or in a movie or on the big screen, then maybe you want to take the opportunity to see this movie, Three Cold Dishes. So as you're being entertained, you're also learning French the way I was. In conclusion, this film clearly was a labor of love. It took blood, sweat, and tears for them to make this film. And the director of the film, Asurf, he said as much when they came out to take their bow after the movie. So I was really happy for them because clearly you could tell by their expressions that it took a lot for them to, make this film a reality. And for me, watching the film, I don't know, I think it's hard to watch an action film made in Nigeria or made in Africa and not compare it to action films made in the US, because we've seen so many American action films. So when you see certain stunts or effects in our Nigerian films or in our African action films, you kind of like have an expectation, at this point because of all the American action films we've seen. And I feel like that's how I felt while watching this film. I kept on thinking of how things could have been done differently or better had this been an American film. So I think that's maybe an error on my part. I didn't just free my mind and watch this film as an African, action thriller. But that said, I saw what they were trying to achieve and where they were going. And I think they could have gotten there better with a bit more input, maybe the better writing, maybe more male protagonists in this film, because the main protagonists in the film are the three ladies, right? Not to, cross a gender line here, but maybe if there were more male protagonists in the film, we could have gotten more of an action vibe. I don't know. But kudos to all involved. It was no easy feat. And thanks once again to Filmhouse Group for inviting me to the premiere. The premiere was not bad. There was lots to eat and drink. There were lots of celebrities in the building. The decor was really nice. The only thing I wasn't really a fan of with the premiere is that it started late. I don't know if that's something I'll ever get used to. I'm not going to give this movie a jollof rating. I'm not going to give it a jollof rating. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review, do me a favor and like it by clicking on the like button, and subscribe to my channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. On this channel, I don't just do Nollywood movie reviews. Sometimes I talk about other things. Check out some of the other things I've done. You can click the card in the corner of the screen. I recently reviewed the new streaming app that came out a few days ago, Ebony Life on Plus. I did a video on how you can register and some of the things that are on the app. So check that video out. It's just like 4 minutes long. So check that out. Also look out for Osas's other big film coming out this period. Her and Uzo Arukwe have Colors of Fire coming out, which is directed by Ni Akimolayon. So Osas she's really out there this season promoting her big projects. So look out for the review of that once that comes out around the Christmas period. Knowing me, I'll probably do that review in the new year. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been awesome. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.